Bottom line, Browns had a football game they could have won, they didn't, and now 10 straight games where the offense has scored 17 or fewer points. That's problematic. I'm Jeff Phelps. This is Andy Baskin.
Yeah, that goes back a little bit. It's difficult to swallow yesterday's game. I'm sorry. And by the way, Kevin Stefanski lost a lot of supporters, I think, by the way things shook out. But you also have to look at a defense that gave up a big drive at the end of the game to give it up. They always want to talk about the complementary football. Complementary football. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in the last 5 years. The special teams, the defense, the offense. Well, guess what? The fourth estate let them down yesterday, and I thought that was coaching. So I don't. It's an interesting conundrum I think they're in right now, and I think that people that were kind of towing the line on Kevin and Kevin's future here are leaning towards, hey, maybe they need some a new thought process, but. Again, you're sitting on 2 first-round draft picks next year. You're trying to figure out what this year's all about. You're trying to figure out if you've got a quarterback. I watched a kid play yesterday that I thought was pretty good, but at the end of the game, that number was 17, and it's not any better than what Joe Flacco's been able to do.
Or Jameis Winston. Or DTR.
Yeah, I'm just looking at guys on the current roster. So, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. And I jumped in.
Well, Jameis was able to get over it. Jameis had a couple 30-point games.
And then he did.
Yeah.
Then he had some that weren't.
Yeah.
So it's 10 straight games of 17 or fewer points. I think Kevin Stefanski is a good NFL head coach. I think the timeout situation yesterday is one that if he doesn't regret, he should. We'll explain that as we go. I wouldn't make any kind of a coaching move. I like Kevin. I think he's a good coach. We've all been around this too long. This is the type of stuff that gets people fired. And this is the type of stuff that gets people fired. You've gone 10 straight games scoring 17 or fewer points. It's not Kevin's fault that they coughed up first-round draft choices for a quarterback who came in and didn't play very well for them. It's not Kevin's fault that quarterback tore his Achilles and then tore it again. It's not Kevin's fault that he was given Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders to work with. It's not Kevin's fault that they gave him Jerry Jeudy and called him a number 1 wide receiver and gave him Cedric Tillman and called him a number 2 wide receiver and said, here's Isaiah Bond. He didn't go through training camp. Here's Jamari Thrash. Good luck. That's not Kevin's fault.
I mean, if we're going to dig up old bones, it's kind of hard not to look at Tampa Bay and see who their quarterback is. 4-1. He's got 8 touchdown passes. He's like in the top 5 in passing yards, and he used to wear a Cleveland Browns jersey and was pretty loyal until the organization didn't want to be loyal to him. Now, was he mature or not mature? I don't know.
That's all well and good. Let me give you a different thought on that team.
Okay.
That team had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin.
Those guys aren't playing. I mean, he's got injured guys now.
Hold on.
Okay.
This is not about Baker Mayfield.
For me, it is.
Okay, you go ahead with that.
I will.
It's about this. They had Mike Evans. They had Chris Godwin. They had Jalen McMillan. 3 wide receivers who were better than anybody the Browns have.
True, that's true.
And they went out and drafted another in Emeka Egbuka.
And he's looking like
He's looking like a stud.
Yes, he is.
They had 3 guys who were better than the Browns, anybody the Browns have, and went out and drafted another one better than anybody the Browns have. They have running backs. Now the Browns have a running back. They keep adding to the skill positions, and this team doesn't. And that's not the head coach's fault. But people pay the price when teams do things like the Browns are doing right now. And I just think that we should all pay attention to this. I also think this, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing happens here right now,
mm-hmm.
and again, I don't think it should. If nothing happens now, I think that's telling. And I say that for this reason. This is the type of a situation that gets coaches fired. It's also the type of a situation that gets general managers fired.
Yeah, yesterday it was.
And if nothing happens here and they go on with business as usual, I think that tells you a lot about where the organization is, that they're thinking long term, that they think this is not the team this year, but we think it might be the team in a year or two. And that's why we're not making any changes. So I just think we should all pay attention here. Again, I think Kevin Stefanski is a good football coach. I like him. I want him as coach of this franchise. The timeout thing yesterday, I think he blew it. I think that was bad.
You can't have an 11-second drive when you've got the lead. Like they played not to win. I'm sorry. They played not to win. I know that's kind of a twist on the way people look at it, but they just
they played not to lose, and they lost.
They find different ways to lose, or whether that's Kevin's fault or the history of this organization since 1999. That yesterday, you're right, Jeff. I mean, this is the kind of, if this was game 17 and they were in Pittsburgh, guys would be told to find their own ride home. Let's be honest. And you wouldn't be surprised if they would leave somebody in London if this was week 17.
Andy, the Haslams have fired coaches for less.
Yeah, way less. Again, I do think...
I don't think the guy should be removed. I like him. I think he's a good coach. He's not been given a ton to work with. And I think if things remain in place, I think that's telling about the organization. And I don't think that's even a bad thing. All I know is this isn't working. And, I go back to three things for yesterday's loss, Andy.
Okay.
Your first four possessions of the fourth quarter. Oh, my God. 3 and out, 5 plays, 1 first down, 3 and out. You ran, 14 plays and picked up 30 yards. If you pick up 2 first downs,
you win the game.
You probably win the football game.
Yes.
Instead, the offense was god-awful in the fourth quarter. That's one. Number 2, I had a coach reach out to me this morning and said, went back and watched that final drive 3 times. I don't care about the timeouts. I don't care about the offense not doing in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You got to make a stop. You can't let an injured Carson Wentz lead the Minnesota Vikings 10 plays, 80 yards to win a football game. That's absolutely true. The defense had been pretty good. Defense down when it mattered most.
Yeah, when it mattered the most, they didn't make the play. But then again, and I didn't look at time of possession from yesterday's game. How long? What did you? I don't know if you saw that or not. But
it was even at halftime, real close.
I just, you look at a game like that, and you're just like, there you go, should have won again.
Yep.
33-26. Sorry, wrong game. Hang on, I'll find it. Should have known this before I got out here. It's just. Looking at that game yesterday, it's just you want to put your head through the screen. It's another one of those games where you're just like, it was almost dead even. 30-29 to 29-31. And the Browns had the ball longer.
And then, Andy, the timeouts.
I can't believe that.
Kevin.
They didn't turn the ball over. Like, there were little things they did in yesterday's game that they did right. How much fun was it to watch Quinshon Judkins yesterday?
Oh, he's good.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was fun. There were little things in that game yesterday where I felt like they were going in the right direction. And we just sit there and we wait for the bottom to fall out. That's who we are. I thought Judkins' quote after the game about being at Ohio State where they walk in the stadium every game, they expect to win. I don't know. Does our team expect to win every game? During the pregame show yesterday, the guys in London made it sound like, man, they had a fresh attitude. Everybody was in a good mood. Everything was good. I kind of felt like they were going to upset them yesterday. And you know what? They should have upset them yesterday. Were they missing 3-4 offensive linemen? How did they lose? How did they lose again? How did they not get to 20 points again? It's the same broken record. It's frustrating. The only thing that was good was I had the rest of the day to myself after they lost. I think that's the way most people felt around town. Saw people working on their yards yesterday.
The timeouts late in the game, I thought Kevin hacked that up. I don't think that was a good call. They started calling timeouts when Minnesota reached the Browns 21 with 1 minute and 10 seconds to play. Minnesota still had 1 timeout left. So at that point, I understand the thought. I just disagree with it. Kevin's thinking, all right, they're getting the field goal, and this will allow me to have some time to come back and maybe put some points on the board. What I think they did was they allowed Minnesota to get a touchdown. All right, you concede the field goal, right? If you're at the 21-yard line and you make stops, then that's a 31, 38-yard field goal. So basically an extra point, and you have a good kicker in Will Reichard. So you got to figure you're going to get the field goal. By calling those timeouts, you allowed Minnesota with a beat-up offensive line to relax, get set, not use their last timeout, and they scored with 25 seconds left. That I think that was a bad call by Kevin. If he had to do it over again, obviously it didn't work. He would do it differently because it didn't work. And all that did was gave Minnesota a chance to regroup, score a touchdown while you were conceding the field goal. That was bad. And they were really conservative with Dylan Gabriel all day in the play calling with the offense. So even if you conserve time, Andy, did you have confidence that he was going to be able to cut it loose and go?
No.
I didn't think so either. Now that
when they got to midfield towards the end of the game too, I was like, do you put Flacco in because he has a stronger arm? Although Gabriel did launch that one that they called timeout before. That was like 50 yards in the air. He got it to the end zone on that. There was a part,
and then they didn't throw another one down there. Yeah,
and then he tried to get out of bounds with 1 second to go.
Your wide receivers yesterday caught 5 balls. 2 of them were after Minnesota came back and took the lead. So in the final 20 seconds, he had 2 22-yard completions, one to Thrash and one to Isaiah Bond. So your wide receivers were a non-factor. Been saying for a number of years the wide receiving talent on this team isn't good enough. Well, it's not. It's not.
It hasn't been for a while, John.
It's not Kevin's fault. Kevin doesn't bring in the players. It goes back to the Watson trade and the first-round picks and everything else, but other teams give up first-round picks and are able to put talent on their team. This team doesn't have enough offensive talent. It doesn't. Quinshon Judkins is the real deal.
Yes.
The offensive line that everybody's been shredding sure did a great job run blocking yesterday, didn't it? Dylan Gabriel didn't get sacked, did he?
No.
Didn't throw an interception, did he?
Nope.
Yet the Browns lose.